Welcome to this week's episode of Coffee with the Journalist, brought to you by One Pitch. The guests on our show include some of the most notable journalists from the top US-based publications who cover topics including technology, lifestyle and culture, health, science, consumer products, and business news. We discuss their role, the types of stories they cover, what their inbox looks like, and how they connect with sources. If you're an avid listener to the show, we'd love to hear from you. Leave us a review to share your thoughts about past episodes and help spread the word to new listeners. Today, Mar Masson Maack from The Next Web joins us. Mar is the editor of Growth Quarters and Podium at The Next Web and joined the outlet in 2017. During today's episode, Mar tells us more about the tie-in between Growth Quarters and Podium and The Next Web, the percentage of pitches in his inbox, how he analyzes pitches and sources, and more. Let's dive in.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with a Journalist. I'm Beck Bamberger, co-founder of One Pitch and also BAM, which is an agency that represents all these venture-backed technology companies. And we always have coffee and a journalist here. Well, not coffee, but always a journalist. That's usually the case. Today, we have Mar Masson Maack. I'm so excited. From The Next Web. He's the editor of Growth Quarters at The Next Web, which we're going to talk about it. Welcome, Mar. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me back.
All the way from Amsterdam.
Yeah, gray old Amsterdam today.
Gray old Amsterdam. And by the way, we were talking about this originally. You're originally from Iceland. Love that country. So gorgeous. And how lovely. How lovely.
It's quite a privilege to be the first thing that everybody says to you is like, oh my God, I want to visit. Or, oh my God, I had a great time in your country. So you
can... Oh, that is cool. Well, first, let's start with just what is the Growth Quarters by The Next Web? Because people, I'm sure, are scratching their heads a little bit because you are editor specifically of that. Do tell.
The Next Web, or TNW, as we like to call it. So we have a bit more niche sub-brands underneath the big brand. So we're kind of developing those. Well, we've been doing it for a couple of years now. So we're launching an AI sub-brand that's neural, and then we have Plugged, which is more gadget gear connected to consumers. And then we have Growth Quarters, which is a bit more on the startups and entrepreneur side, because we felt like, that's the core of kind of T&W's origin story, let's say. And it was to service startups and be a big positive force in that scene.
Mm-hmm.
But we were kind of missing out on that when we stuck to just general tech coverage, because it can be tough to kind of line up quite specific startup-related advice next to news about Facebook's new features or something like that. So it was also just a way to show a bit of dedication to that topic, as well as connected to, we've had stages on our main conferences. So, we have this big conference every year in Amsterdam, and we've had a Growth Quarter stage there, which was about pitching and so forth. So that's why we kind of just went for it, then launched this kind of sub-brand that has its own voice and own type of imagery. And hopefully we're trying to make it easier for people to find consistent content, because we cover a lot of different things. So this is just a place to kind of gather it in one place.
Bring it all together.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Your inbox, given that you're an editor, how crazy is it though with pitches? Do tell.
Well, I cleared my inbox this morning, I think. So I don't know why I keep trying to do that, but I'm just a bit finicky about having all these messages and stuff pop up. But now I got 47 emails unopened.
Already? From how long ago did you clean it out?
End of yesterday.
Okay.
So when I showed up at work this morning, it was 47.
Okay, that didn't last long. And so what percentage of those are pitches though?
I'd say 90%.
Oh, wow, that many.
Yeah, and or some kind of press release or something.
Something. That is a pitch, really. So do you now have a meticulous way in which you suss out these pitches? Are you one of those mass deleters, or do you read? Rarely I hear on this show, there is a rare bunch that reads every single pitch, which absolutely stuns me still.
Well, those must be great at time management when it comes to other stuff, because, that would take quite a long time. Well, when I started out, I was kind of diligently going through everything and turning down things by writing them back and stuff. But then I quickly figured, you can't
Like,
give an
that's gonna
inch
take
really.
forever.
Yeah,
Yep.
because I mean, as soon as you reply in any fashion, you're kind of dragged into this back and forth. So unfortunately, become the desensitized journalist who just doesn't even open email. So I really go by the subject line and check who it's from at the moment now, because like I just can't really get any more scattered than I already am. So I do a lot of sussing out in just that thing. So I can just go quickly through it, mark this red, or
Got you. So you're just going, okay, that's very common for people. You're looking at the subject line. What interests you in a good subject line?
basically if it just sounds like a human wrote it.
Yeah. So basic.
Yeah.
So basic.
Yeah.
Ah.
And of course, I mean, it depends on what your beat is, and it's quite confusing because I've actually switched up beats quite a lot since I started at TNW. So, I mean, I might be on some old mailing lists that might have been relevant, but then again, I'm also on some mailing lists that were never relevant for me, or where my name is marked as Mark, or even get a few Johns all of a sudden. So I'm not sure.
Johns.
Yeah.
What?
Guess that's their default one.
What?
Yeah, but anything that feels like an empty PR release, just like a press release, I don't open those. If it's someone reaching out to talk to me directly, so someone that's representing an interesting interviewee or something like that, if they manage to kind of phrase that in a subject line, then I might open it. But then again, like also what I'm worried about now, and like I think a lot of other journalists, is that we know that there's a lot of tracking in email.
Yeah.
So I kind of worry that if I open an email, that people will keep sending me ones because they saw
yeah.
I almost bite. So
That is I don't like the tracking for exactly that reason. I don't actually track my emails because I'm like, write me back or not. What am I going to do if you're like, oh, you open the email 3 times, but you don't respond? What am I going to do? Like sit there and wonder about it? I don't know. Anyway, so the tracking thing boggles my mind. Okay. We do have an audience ask here, Mar. We tell people that we're having certain people on, such as yourself, and then we get questions submitted. So this is from Pete from Tap to Report. How can startup founders get your attention? We usually don't have a PR person and we have no name recognition. So what do we do? Oh, poor Pete.
Well, so this is actually something that I've been trying to wrap my head around as well, because I mean, in the beginning when like TNW started and there was this big tech boom, like you could cover any type of startup announcement and it was interesting and it was fresh and whatever.
Yeah.
But then I think after Facebook kind of got involved with darker stuff and you had this kind of more tech cynicism going on, and also kind of crypto scams and stuff, like just the whole reporting on something unproven became harder. But what I'm trying to kind of encourage startup founders to do, which I know is hard, and I'm not sure how it relates to their bottom line, but from a content perspective, I'm always trying to get them to share the lessons they've learned. So try to talk about something that isn't your product, and I think it will still pay off in the end. So I think a lot of people want coverage that says, okay, wow, this startup's app is amazing. I wish millions of people used it. But in fact, like that's going to be really tough to reach out. So the people that I feature on Growth Quarters, because we have a contributors platform where people can pitch, well, it's a slow process and can be a harsh one. Well, it's about helping other startups. So if you come to Growth Quarters, it's not where you're talking to possible consumers in a sense. You're giving advice, you're helping out other startups, and you're not reporting numbers that are necessarily for investors. You're trying to like be a positive force in that scene. So if you talk about, okay, here's the challenge that I faced when I was setting up my first developer team, not knowing anything about development.
That's valuable.
That's kind of like a unique human insight into the process. And that's where you can kind of be a fly on the wall in a situation where you aren't yet in. And I think this type of thought leadership can get you a long way. But then again, I'm only talking about it as a person that's interested in the content. So I'm just judging it by the parameters of how good the writing is, how intriguing the story is. But of course, it can be hard for founders to actually find the time to sit down and write something, especially if they might not be that confident as writers.
But there's solutions for that. You could find a freelancer, all that good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think also like if you maybe start to add something to your daily process. So let's say if you sit down once a week and you try to process a problem you had that week by writing it out. Just say, I did this was a failure, whatever, I kind of learned that. Then you already have kind of a basic structure of a possible story that you can at least put out there and help people with. Because the people that I've reached out to are the ones on Twitter that might do a long thread about a problem they faced and how they solved it. And all of a sudden they get a journalist coming to them asking to publish their piece, which is rare.
Yeah, that is very rare.
Yeah. So maybe look outside that B2C angle and just start talking about all the aspects of your journey, of your product, of your whatever. So like
what you learned.
Yeah. So and especially like try to pinpoint like smaller details. Like use a small detail, tell a big story. So for example, like okay, our first user quit. This was the issue, or something like. And then you're actually grabbing onto that one detail, you can get a sense of a much larger story with a bigger lesson that's still enticing enough to grab onto.
I like that. Good advice. Hopefully that's helpful for Pete. Yeah, but if you're a small startup, no name, what'd you learn? I like it. By the way, for people who are not familiar with that particular section in the Next Web, that's basically your contributed section in growth quarters, right?
So our idea was trying to amplify voices in the scene, and it's not really a promotional, like we're kind of strict, like you shouldn't try to push a product. And also if you get published, you can add a link to your company, like because it has a profile on top to explain where this advice is coming from, to give people some context of where this is coming from. But that also means your SEO ranking will probably improve, because so rather than sending people emails about, hey, maybe you should update this piece from 2016 with a link to our new case study, try to be genuine and write something that's for the benefit of others, and you will be rewarded down the line, I think.
Oh, I agree with that. That's the magic of thought leadership. Excellent. Okay, everybody. Now you know they got a contributed section. And by the way, do your research to figure out who the editor is, because that is not Mar. So don't be pitching him on those parts. Right, Mar?
Well, technically it's me, but I like to
hide. It is?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You hide.
Yeah,
okay.
I hide behind it.
We just had a little kernel of insight there just dropped on this show. Okay, we'll just tuck that in the back there. Maybe people who listen in really sharp will hear that.
Today's interview will continue after this brief message brought to you by OnePitch. Are you curious to see the unique ways OnePitch helps PR professionals and marketers pitch journalists? Head to onepitch.co to learn about our new OnePitch score and see how easy it is to find the right journalist to pitch your news to. Sign up for your free account today. Now, back to today's episode.
What about a pitch that you recently got, or maybe even the last year, where you're like, damn, that was a good pitch. I remember that. Do you have one of those?
Well, there was a recent one. So, I mean, I do get a lot of pitches directly to me, but also through our contributor program. So, like contributed articles. And there was one recently where I kind of broke my own rule for it and published it. So, it was an article by Philip Levinson that was called 3 Reasons Why Almost Every VC Investor Passed on Zoom.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah. As soon as I saw that headline in our system, I was like, okay, wow. This one goes ahead of the queue. And I read it, and what was good about it, he was genuine about like the topic. It was super relevant. But what's usually on our contributor platform, like we don't really allow interviews, or like it's not meant as a platform for journalists. It's more like a direct get to the source of the advice and sharing of experiences. But Philip's approach was a bit different. Like he talked to some of those investors from Zoom's early days, but then kind of weaves into his own experience. And I felt like this was an article that I should have written. So he got ahead of the curve.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So
you remember that one, of course.
Yeah, because I was just like kind of torn at that point. Like, okay, he's breaking my rule that I put down pretty clearly, but damn it, it's a good article.
Oh, dang. When you're thinking of a piece that you're going to do, and I know it's a little different because you're in an editing type of mode, but where does the inspiration come for the stories you do?
Yeah, it's a tough one because right now, I have a lot of editorial duties, so it's tough to find the time, but I still try to do one a week. It's usually interviews, something long. Like, I'm more a fan of a long form, although it's tough in a fast-paced media environment. But I just like the writing challenge of it and the structure and trying to make it more readable. But I don't know, I'm just trying to find something quirky or interesting or like a spin on something normal.
Sometimes when I ask that, people are like, oh yeah, I go on walks and I think about something, or oh yeah, it strikes me in the middle of the night, and I'm kind of thinking of a story angle. And some people have said openly that it's, a lot of them come from pitches. And then some people say, yeah, no, it doesn't come from pitches, 10%.
Yeah, I'd say like throughout my time at TNW, maybe done 1 or 2 pitches. Nah.
Wow. Out of all the stuff you've done?
Yeah, well, maybe a few more, but still,
okay.
like it's...
That's a small margin. That's a very small margin.
But like, I mean, a recent one was a pitch that wasn't directly towards me, but it was related to a piece that I had just done, so it kind of went the wrong way, but still, like, I ended up doing that. I'm currently writing that up. But in that case, I'm trying to change it up a bit, so now I'm like openly asking for pitches for a certain series that I'm doing.
Okay. Changing that up. Do you want to mention that, by the way? Even though I know this podcast will go air a little bit later, but is there anything you're looking for, like on an ongoing basis, you'd want to throw out?
I'm kind of doing an informal series now.
Okay.
Well, basically calling out jargon startup job titles. So, I mean, we've all...
Love it.
Yeah,
love it.
We've all seen like the wizards and ninjas and so forth. But the thing is, like, of course, this is I've been kind of thinking about it for a while, and it's a tough one to approach because I quite like the skeptical, sarcastic tone. But of course, the readers are other entrepreneurs, so you have to be also friendly.
Gotta know your audience.
Yeah, also friendly at the same time. So, like, the first article that appeared now a couple of weeks ago in this series was, "What the hell is a chief meeting designer?"
What? There's somebody whose job that is?
Yeah.
To make sure meetings go well?
Well, so that's the thing. Like, that's kind of like what I was digging into. So he's a chief meeting designer at Slido.
Oh, yeah, the slide. Yeah, the slide thing that does all the Google slides. I just use them for a presentation.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah,
Why do you have to have someone in charge of meetings for that company?
Yeah, so that's an interesting, but it's actually quite related to the company's bottom line, and it's kind of smart marketing as well.
Fascinating.
Yeah. But what was really fun about that interview is that the interviewee, Juras, he was totally up for that tone. So basically we kind of set it up beforehand, like, okay, I'm going to be the kind of mean one, let's say, calling out the bullshit in a playful way.
Yes.
But it's actually more about teeing up his answers in a more fun way, but also giving him the chance of like just telling things like it is. Because like there's often... a lot of stuff is kind of wrapped up in all sorts of jargon and bullshit. So I think it can be kind of fun for us to uncover it a bit while still not devaluing what we're talking about. It's been a kind of interesting challenge now. And the next one I'm working on is a senior Clubhouse executive.
Oh, yes, Clubhouse. Now, wait a second. You want to like know people at Clubhouse? Do you want to like, what's the angle there?
Yeah, well, we'll find out.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a big fan of Clubhouse, but it certainly listed out that title. So these are the type of pitches that I'm definitely looking for these days. So if you got a weird startup title that you're actually using.
Weird startup title. Okay. That you're fine, obviously, with like throwing out there and being like, this is,
this is the one I don't mind seeing in my inbox.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Okay. What are you reading right now? We'll take also listening, watching, whatever, given it's a pandemic. Yes. What you got?
Well, I've been listening less, I guess. Like, I'm not going into the office, don't have my usual cycle into work. So in my free time, I mostly read novels. And recently I've been reading a lot of Icelandic books. Well, because I also do book reviews for the Icelandic Literature Web. But
oh, fantastic. You got anything good in particular? Anything we could get?
Well, those haven't been translated yet, so they're all pretty fresh.
Dang. Okay. Wow. Yeah. Super fresh.
But the most recent ones in English I've been reading are I really loved Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata.
Convenience Store Woman.
Yeah, it's a Japanese book translated into English, and it's kind of about the monotonous routine of working in a Japanese konbini. So with a few weird twists, quite like that. And then I had a bit of a South African phase just before Christmas, where I read J.M. Coetzee's Age of Iron, along with Trevor Noah's Born a Crime.
Oh, that's the best. I am a fan of his.
And then I guess next up on the agenda will be Stoner by John Williams. It's not about a stoner, it's about a person named Stoner. But I got that as a birthday present from a friend, so gotta check that out.
Oh, I love it. By the way, this is Stoner and also the Convenience Store one. Those are included on Audible, I see. You know how they'll put a little button on your bottom of the thing? It says included. So that one's also included. Adding to the library, Mar. Perfect. That's where I get all my recommendations from this show. Okay. I have a fill in the blank section now. So I'll give you the phrase and you can just fill it in. Here we go. My favorite publicist always
delivers.
Boom. The most annoying publicist always
reiterate, I guess. Don't want to be following.
Mm-hmm. You'll get a response from me if
you impress me.
You impress me. So simple, but not. You will never get a response from me if
I don't feel like it.
You're not impressed. Yes. It would be a huge help if you
found an angle.
My perfect Sunday is
every day, hopefully.
Every day. I love that. The nicest thing I ever heard about a piece of my work was.
Oh, now I only remember the bad stuff. I love the engagement for my recent piece. So, well, yeah. Any compliment.
See a lot of engagement.
Kind of did the rounds on LinkedIn, which was nice.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. The last best thing I ate was.
Delicious sushi I ordered for my birthday. Real authentic.
Oh, nice. Quarantine has taught me
boredom.
My favorite stories to write are
weird.
Yeah, I like weird. One thing I think people should know more about me is
I was born in Japan.
You were born in Japan?
Yeah, it's become an office joke that I talk about it too much. So I'm just
gonna put it out there. Put it out
double
there,
down
Mark.
on it. Yeah.
Double down. I like it. Okay. What do you think the future of journalism looks like?
Maybe a bit depressing, but I mean, there's always got to be the worry about money. And I mean, maybe we could see further consolidation or more focus on geographical ties, I guess, where you're trying to be the go-to platform for a certain group of people. But then again, like, I mean, TNW's model might be kind of makes sense in many ways because media is only one of our pillars of companies. So we also have an events one. We also have startup spaces where we rent out offices. We also have programs and so forth. So perhaps having a media arm attached to a bigger firm so you can kind of roll with the punches when a certain part might underperform. You can move on to another pillar. But of course, I think it can be hard to launch new media sites at this time. Like TNW was quite lucky. It was part of the boom. It established itself with kind of a lean team in a sense. Like it was just at the right time and we've kept it up. But there will always be content in a sense, the part of journalism that's closer to content. But then of course, like more deep investigative journalism is a bit different, but I'm always a big fan of what a lot of European public broadcasters do. There's often quite strong news teams there. I'm a big socialist, so I have a big faith in public broadcasters. So I always enjoy that.
I love that, Mario. Like, I'm a big socialist. Put it down. Just put it on the table. I freaking love it. That's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to put maybe mildly optimistic, cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, firms will come and go, but I mean, there has to always be there. But like, it was sad seeing a lot of people being let go from a lot of media agencies and papers, like most recently, but hopefully after the pandemic. I mean, the pandemic has been quite exceptional in the sense like we no industry could really prepare for it or adjust it. So, and I'm not sure, like a lot of people talk about the new normal, whatever. I mean, I think in a lot of ways we'll go back to what we've been doing. So maybe we'll see people being rehired or getting second wind.
I think it's going to be that. And also, I'm thinking it's the second coming of the Roaring 20s.
Yeah, well, I hope so. I think everybody's ready for it.
And everyone has parties. It's going to be crazy.
I can't wait.
I kind of think like there will be like a baby boom as well. I think so.
On that note, with journalism as well, like I'm always a big fan of any kind of story that is just like, we did this. Like I did this so you didn't have to, or something like that's kind of on the ground and kind of like doing something weird or like that includes an action of some sort. And I think maybe we'll see more of that once the pandemic is over, when everybody is like kind of itching to get out somewhere and do something.
Exactly. To be seen. So exciting. We will see. Okay, Mar, now is the time for our Mad Libs. So I'm going to give you the word, and then I'm going to fill it in, and then I'll read you back the whole statement afterwards. Okay. These are usually shockingly accurate or just stupidly silly, and it's fun. And, sometimes both. Okay. What is an emotion?
Synergy. I'm really obsessed with jargon these days.
Synergy. Someone said that yesterday on this here too. I think it was Lydia from Fast Company. She's like, I never want to hear that word again. Okay. What's an adjective?
Bodacious. I've been using that a lot.
Bodacious. Okay. Another adjective.
Stern.
Okay. A greeting.
Sup.
Okay. I haven't heard that in frickin' ages. Okay. Verb.
Align.
Perfect. A noun.
Hat rack.
Another adjective.
Snowy.
Yeah, I could go with that. It's a lot of the country right now over here in the States. Okay. A cringeworthy PR term.
Loved your piece on.
Loved your piece on and ... Okay. And then part of a pitch.
They often open with something like seemingly personal. Hope you're doing okay.
Seemingly personal.
Yeah, it's like
opening. Okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
Length of time.
An eon.
An eon. Great. The name of a real person, preferably alive.
Callum Booth.
Okay.
I'll force him to listen.
Yeah, there you go. And then an emotion.
Yearning.
Let's do that. All right, here we go, Mar. When I think of the future of journalism, I feel synergy. The pitches I receive had gone from bodacious to stern. If I receive a pitch that starts with sup, Mar, I align. When I write stories on pack rats, I get snowy. My favorite pitches include loved your piece on and a very specific, seemingly personal opening. I normally take around an eon to respond to my emails, but if it's clean both, I will respond immediately. If you do get a response back from me, you should know that I am very yearning for you.
Well, the eon part is on.
Like it.
Eon 1 is on point at least.
Oh, how fun. Mar, thank you so much for being on here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I enjoyed it so much. And stay warm in Amsterdam.
Yeah, well, I'm from Iceland. It's fine.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. You're built for it. Perfect. All right. Thanks so much, Mar.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Coffee with the Journalist featuring Mar Masson Maack from the Next Web. If you enjoy listening to our show, make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts. And if you have a moment, please leave us a review to share your thoughts about the show and today's guest. To learn more about the latest tools on OnePitch and to subscribe to our weekly podcast newsletter, head to our website at onepitch.co. We'll see you all next week with a brand new guest and even more insights about the journalists you want to learn more about. Until then, start great stories.